Hi, guys. Welcome back to Raising Autism. And today we're actually going to take a different direction. We have Gary with us, and as well as Miss Danae and Lindsay. And today we're trying to just educate individuals who are, parents, caregivers on what they should do for the future. So my introductory question is, how can we prepare for a future when parents or caregivers are no longer available to support? And then the next question would be, what is a special needs trust? And what's the process like on getting one started?
Oh, am I supposed to talk?
Oh yeah, you can definitely go right ahead.
I'm just asking. So
Yeah, yeah.
I have no clue.
it kind of came the introduction. It kind of had a dead silence. Okay. Um, yes, I like this topic, and I like about the group we have because as a did 27 years in the military, and I am a proud father of a special needs child. My son is 14 years old. He's probably almost 4'9". No, he weighs 165 pounds. So he's gonna be a big. So by the time he's 18, he's probably gonna be at least 6'2", 6'3". I saw a
Wow.
285. I'm assuming, but he's on the low end spectrum for autism, and so comes near and dear to me. So when people talk about why we talk about special needs trust or planning, is some people says, "Oh, you should do this, do this." Well, have you ever raised a loved one? Have you ever been in that situation? And I think as a parent of one, I'm not saying do I have the expertise? No. Do I know it all? No. But if I can share lessons learned or actions that I did that can maybe benefit somebody else. And I think that's something that is worth considering. Um, in reference to Ms. Smith, regards to things you need to consider for financial planning,
Yeah.
is I always recommend do a monthly budget. Um, if I've noticed in my experience with 27 years working with soldiers, family limits. I never told people what to do
Mhm.
because it's called abuse of authority. You can't do
Right.
that with soldiers or men. But that's why I always had an EO rep or a chaplain or somebody with legal with me
Right.
says, "Hey, Captain Lloyd, Major Lloyd, then I mean the Colonel Lloyd. He never says you need to do this. I never point a finger. Hey, you need to go with this company. Nope. I say here's things you need to think about."
Right.
So, um, if most families in our society do not do a monthly budget, regardless of where the money's coming, how I manage my expenses, how much I pay on a monthly basis, regardless of gas, water, uh, internet, Social Security, I mean not Social Security, security,
Right.
HOAs. I mean, if you ain't tracking all those expenses and then looking at what money's coming in, those expenses, and then looking at regards to money going out, regards to your mortgages, your car insurance, your credit cards, those things right there is before I recommend for any special needs planning. If you ain't taking care of your personal finances first, then how are you gonna be able to help your loved one?
Right.
And so, even with the loved ones, because let's be honest, folks, my son is not is he'll probably never be able to handle his own personal finance himself because of his intellectual disabilities.
Mm.
I'm just trying to be honest. My
Right.
wife sees that. I see that. It's going to happen. But what I can put in place is certain measures that can be taking care of his finances. So once he later in life, if all those certain measures are taken care of, so his place of living is taken care of. Only thing he has to probably worry about is maybe um, taking care of maybe food, water, and basic care. That's good. So I always recommend before any situation as a family members is start looking at do a personal finance review. Then once you start looking at that, then you go to the next step. And then you start talking about um, trust.
Right.
There are trust. And then if you're looking for a lawyer and to do something, I will says do your research. There's a lot of lawyers says, yeah, we do special needs trust. Okay, great. Can you tell me the legalities in each state with regards to the special needs trust? Can you tell me what I can put into it, what I cannot put into it? If if they're saying, hey, we do family care planning, we do this, and they just put the additional wording, special needs trust, how much experience have he or she or the institution
Oh,
has done that?
okay.
Because let's be honest, our society is a capitalist society, and everybody's trying to
Mm,
make the bottom dollar.
yeah.
Are they actually just saying, hey, yeah, I do this because, but my main specialty is family planning. My main specialty is handling divorce court. My main specialty is doing this. And they're just trying to pull additional identifier. Well,
Mm,
me personally, I'd say run away. That's not the person you want to. I want a lawyer or a representative or a legal representation of somebody who's been working with the state for 15, 20 years, and their sole focus is I'm a special needs trust planner.
wow.
And that, and then other people say, well, how do you define one? I said, well, that's probably do you gotta do your research. Um, and then you got to start quizzing them because usually if most time your first visit with a legal representative, it's usually free. But you remember, most lawyers are going to charge you by the hour. Most decent lawyers,
Mm,
they're going to charge you maybe starting maybe first visit, but after that, you may could be anywhere upwards from $100 an hour to $300. But I know a lot of special needs lawyers just to talk to you and do the planning is free because what they're doing is because they're saying, look, I work with the state. I am a state representative for my state, and as a lawyer within from the state, a state's not going to recommend somebody unless you're following state
protocol, right?
laws
Okay.
and be meeting those state protocols. And then they know that you're not trying to take advantage of it. And I always says, take a look at your nonprofit. There are a lot of nonprofit special needs lawyers that are certified by the state, and their heart and focus is making sure your families or your loved ones are taken care of. So,
Mm,
um, those are some things to consider. Then he says, when I talk to families, I heard people says, I got a will. And folks, if I'm talking too much, I apologize. I don't know
oh.
when to stop or
No,
whatever.
you're okay.
I'm just
I'm actually
rambling.
learning quite a
If
lot
I'm
on
rambling
that.
too much, because
I
you know,
like what I'm hearing.
in Texas, once you start talking, you can't stop. And if you give me a beer, I could talk longer, but you never know. But we gotta have some humor here because people are always too serious. So you may call it dry humor. Okay, it's dry humor, but you know what? I believe in living life to the fullest. So if I have fun, I'm gonna have fun. But
Exactly.
the what goes into the trust and people I meet a lot of families says, here, I have a will. Great.
I was actually going to ask that. What?
And thing is, I'll throw this out to the group since it's being recorded, and then I can at least share that. You can share it with other people on the platforms.
Right.
Do most people know the difference between a will and a trust?
I was actually going to ask that. Like, what what really is the difference between the
Now, I
trust and
know
the
the
will?
answer. Do you know the answer?
I did not actually.
Miss
Do
Jarvis.
not.
Okay, Lindsay.
The will is more of a legal document dedicating specific items to specific things. Like the house goes to grandson, the car goes to Susie, that kind of thing. And then the trust is more of like what's being built and left there that someone probably is listed in the will to go access. Is that correct?
Oh,
Tell you the truth, they're almost the same thing.
Okay.
oh, okay.
Because I mean that's good. Good. People get me give you different analogies, but I said when I was deploying that I spent 4 years in Afghanistan. I mean, sorry, 4 years in Iraq and 2 years in Afghanistan, Bosnia, Kosovo, and different
Wow.
events. And then every time he deployed, he always says, update your will. Part of your family care plan for your family is like the what if. What if
Mm.
mama or papa didn't come back? What if? Here's the thing is, a will and a trust are basically the same thing. I, Gary Lloyd, with sound, heart and sound mind, I leave all my worldly goods. I want my wife to take over my house, my son to go this, and here's my possessions. And guess what? It gets notarized by a legal representative on a military base. It's free. It gets done because you don't need a lawyer to get a will. You can do it online and download a form to do a will, and all you gotta do is go take somebody, pay them like $60 to get notarized. It's
Mm.
still legal. The trust a will can be contested in court, but however, a will can be contested in court, and it's
Mm.
called probate. And with
Okay.
probate, it says, for instance, I pass away in my will, and I have maybe that one cousin or the one member says, Uncle Gary has a really nice Mercedes and a nice house. You know what? I want if I can get a piece of the pie. Because
Mm.
everybody has a family member. Could be that one
That one
relative.
person.
I would say the relative of a person. He says, "Can I contest this?"
Yeah.
They get a good lawyer. The good lawyer says, "You know what? Because every time you have a will, it's North Carolina states, but it tells you when it was updated from the state. If it
Uh,
has been updated in 15 years, and a lot of things have happened in 15 years, maybe you have a new grandbaby, maybe you have a new maybe somebody got divorced. Maybe you have a new grandchild. You don't know the situation because things can happen in 15 years. They can take the will, guess what? If that the state can be contested, and now your state from can be contested in court, and now you go to a probate judge, and they're waiting up to 10 to 15, it could be 10 months or longer for a court judge to decide who gets what from your
wow.
state from that will.
Wow.
And guess who pays the legal cost for that? Maybe your mom, maybe your daughter, your son, or relatives. You have a trust. It gets notarized. I, with sound mind, it protects your state. It protects what you want things to be done. Once it gets notarized, most lawyers will not take a trust to court, and because since it's being notarized, chance of a lawyer taking a trust to court is very slim because most lawyers can't get nothing out of it. And remember, most lawyers are not going to take a case to court unless they know they can get something out of it. So that's why a will and a trust are pretty much the same thing. I want to do is just the trust is more protective for
Right.
your loved one. The reason why we're talking about this topic is what happens if your son or daughter, say for instance, they're on the spectrum for intellectual disabilities. Well, for those disabilities and so forth, you're probably going to be notarized by the state, maybe because every state may have some kind of a group home with uh, adults with certain limitations, and you may be
Right.
in a group home or stay home or whatever. And then if it wants to, if you look at Social Security income, whatever, you can't apply that till age 18. And to get to age 18 is because you're unable to take care of yourself, so you may get some type of SSI, Social Security income. Well, that Social Security income, if it comes to a state, and you say, for instance, you have some estate and you have some rental income, you have some other properties, you have different investments from the state, your estate, from your mom, dad, whatever.
Right.
The state can say, okay, wait a minute. This individual seems like his net worth or the state is worth this amount of money. Well, since he has this kind of money, he has residual income, say made from, say, some rental properties or whatever. The state says, well, your son makes too much, is already making above a certain income,
Oh, wow.
and they can get denied that Social Security benefit. or that's assisted living issues because it's and because of your state. But that's all within a will. You do a special needs trust, a special needs trust, they can still get that residual income and protection, whatever, and your loved one can still get like Medicare, Medicaid, or assisted living benefits because a state cannot deny you services because it's in a trust.
Trust. Oh, wow.
So that's why I want to harp on that. No trust, you have will, the state sees it, they can deny you certain services. You have a special needs trust, it still allows your loved one to get that extra care
That's like
that he
full
or she
security.
may
Wow.
need. And that's why I says go make sure you go find a good special needs lawyer because and I said, folks, I'm not a lawyer, but I know the basics. And that's why I like on this platform I'm saying here's information that I did for my son, but I'm not the expert. But here's things you need to consider. And so that special needs trust lawyer who is maybe a nonprofit and she is associated with the state, then they know most state, and let's be honest, trust setup in each state can vary because
Mhm.
each state has their different laws and regulations. But however, I will state 9% of the time, the basic requirements and services are pretty much the same. It
Gotcha.
just make sure certain wordings or certain guidelines are established. And like I said, those things you may want to make sure you get that looked at. So,
Gotcha.
will and trust always recommend update them every 5 years. People I work with, the veterans and families, I said if you don't have no special needs or don't know something, just recommend update every 5 years because, like I said, you could have an X. I hate the word X, but it happens in our society.
Right.
But you have it updated every 5 years because life situations do change. YMZ says, "Hey, I designate my daughter to take care of my son. Older sibling to take care of a younger sibling." Well, let's be honest. Maybe the older sibling maybe has the right sound of mind, maybe not right sound of mind. Is she able to take care of your young one? Maybe, maybe not. Well, those
Mhm.
situations, then the state may come in and says, okay, due to the oldest sibling is unable to take care of the youngest sibling, the state could come in there and designate who's going to do what. However, if you designate an special needs trust, I designate my sibling to do this. If he or she's not able to, I have my secondary and third person to take care of my loved one. Always designate secondary, third person because, and most, if no lawyers not talk about this, then shame on them because
Wow.
you always have a primary, secondary, and alternate representatives. And it says, what happens? Who's going to be executing your will or your trust on your behalf? What happens if he or she dies before you?
Right.
If you don't have that second, third order effect, well, then it's going to be contested in court. But you already have it set. It says, hey, if my brother, if I pass away, I want my brother to take care of my son. Well, if my brother passed away before me and my spouse, who's next?
Right.
So always designate, and that's why I always recommend every 5 years, update your will or update your trust. You, and most lawyers, especially needs trust, if you do it, because, and always, especially it's called a revocable trust. Not irrevocable, revocable trust. Irrevocable means you can't make any changes, and if you do make any kind of change, you're gonna come out of pocket and make it pay. You don't have to pay.
Mhm.
And that's why you always hear some of these lawyers, well, maybe I need to do irrevocable. Well, what you want to make sure you set up a revocable trust, and then that way you can make those changes over time. And most revocable trust is it's free. If it's nothing major, maybe an update, the name or whatever, it's not going to be a major cost. And a good institution will not charge you a arm and leg just to revoke because most of the time it's going to be free. But like I said, it varies from larger institutions.
So,
Um, we talk about doing a personal finance review first. Then you look at your assets and then then what do you want to go in that trust. And then for special needs, I always like people to consider doing an able account.
okay.
It's Alpha Bravo Lima Echo. See, that's our Army terminology, but let me go back. ABLE. ABLE. Look at an able account. Every state has an able account. And that able account um, allows you and you have to have like on a spectrum identifier as a person with intellectual disabilities. With that identifier, it allows you to, and every family situation is different. Say, for instance, a family can only do $100 a month. Okay, you do $100 a month. But most states, if you cannot contribute more than $20,000 a year into that plan,
Mhm.
um, when if you look at certain states, you can please Google this. It says you got the power of AI. Use the power of AI. And you can go up there in the IRS guidelines. Says the IRS says you can start early, and sometimes you can contribute all the way up to age 26 is usually the limitations. But I could be wrong, and you can double check on that. But it's age 26, and it says if you can contribute up to $100,000, and it doesn't affect the individual's SSI, Social Security income.
Oh,
So you
wow.
can do the able account and you can contribute that. And then with the monies that's in there, say for instance, you did that for your son or daughter. Say for instance, you did $100,000 if your son was born with Down syndrome. And I know, please forgive me if I offend anybody with that. I don't mean to, but a child with Down syndrome, it can be detected at an early age.
Right.
We all know that. A person with dyslexia or autism is not detected maybe till three, age two, age three later in life.
Mm.
But say, for instance, a child is born with the Down syndrome. Say, for instance, I want to do an able count. You can go ahead and start contributing money for that, and say when they're born, and by the time they say they're 20 years old, that's $100,000. Well, you don't contribute any more in it. Well, guess what? It's still getting interest.
It accumulates,
It
right?
accumulates.
Okay.
And the IRS says if it accumulates, you're not pulling anything out of it because it's growing. You just can't add any more into it.
Okay, gotcha.
So it is grow interest. And with the able account, if you want to pull money from that account, maybe take your $100 for some type of disability care or take a trip and say, you have a state provider and a state guardian is going to take a son or daughter on a trip that was for care for the loved one. If as long as they document it and you identify these funds are being pulled to take there. Most states allows you, and you look at the IRS guidelines, as long as the money's being pulled out of that for some type of care or disability care, it is a tax write-off. But if you say, hey, I'm going to use that money to go to take the per- go pay go to I'm going to take this child to go to Disneyland. Well,
Right.
it could be a different story. You got to make sure you're clear on how that money's being because IRS guidelines and state guidelines are very specific. That money, say for instance, but you have a house, for instance, like you have an LLC, a limited liability corporation for it. Say some people don't. There's not a whole lot of state homes in every states, like group homes for adults. Say for instance, Miss Smith, you have your house, and say I would like to designate my house to be used by the state to be used as a home for adults with intellectual disabilities.
Right.
Well, you can designate that to the state within that trust, and then the state is going to manage that house for maybe your loved one or whoever. They get to stay there for free, whatever, because it's you donate a piece of property, and now you have like a here's a terminology, and maybe some of these group homes they have maybe a group mom or
Mm.
father, if just be safe. And that's why, these people said, you know what, I want to be around this. And now these individuals have somebody who's actually like a care provider in that group home, and they're taking care of the people. I mean, there's so much things you can consider for that. So, the personal finance review, having a special needs trust, what you want to put in that trust, and maybe do an able account for them. I will sometimes we'll talk about doing IUL, and it's an Index Universal Life Fund. I say again, it's an Index Universal Life Fund. You have some financial strategists says, oh, that's a that just is an insurance product. You're just ripping off individuals. Okay, great. I'm not. Everybody has their forte, whatever. Yeah, I'm just saying. There's our IULs, Index Universal Life Funds. So you can do it for a child when they're born, like because everybody knows about 529 college fund. Five
Right.
college funds, that money's only going to use for colleges. And what happens if your son or daughter um, gets a full ride scholarship or joins the military? They don't need the money. Well, some institution says, well, to pull that money from that, they're going to make you pay a fee because you're moving money from one plan to another plan. But those institutions, they're ripping you off. And I will say this, they're ripping you off because IRS guidelines is called a 1035 exchange. A 1035 exchange, I can actually move that money from a 529 college fund and put it into a different plan or different account strategy or investment strategy for my loved one, and then you don't pay no fee. You don't pay no taxes, no fee. Only time you pay taxes, you actually gonna pull that money to benefit yourself. Then you got what money, interest money you use, your Uncle Sam or somebody or managers, you got to pay the IRS. But if you actually move that money from one financial institution broke strategy to another, it's called 1035 exchange. You don't pay no dime, and then you're good to go. But the reason why I said the IUL is, say, for instance, you set that up for an IUL instead of doing a 5-time college fund because I'm a brand new parents with a brand new child. I want to set my son or daughter for success. And I get the IUL. Well, yeah, 3 years later, 4 years old, your son has dyslexia or autism. My son wasn't diagnosed for autism till he was almost 3 to 4 years old. He wasn't speaking much, but he can have bodily functions. He can use his hands,
Right.
do everything, but he wasn't speaking much. But he understood different languages because my wife is from Russia. She speaks Russian, but we lived in the military, so he could pick up a lot of words from French and Russian, English, and he understands a lot of those words, but he only speaks English. But he wasn't speaking a whole lot when he was 3. But the thing is, later in life, he was, let's say, yeah, he's on a low end spectrum for autism. And it is true, but if you did the IUL, that money can be used till that son or that child is, say, for instance, at age 18, age 21. That son or daughter now says, hey, they have 75, $80,000. That money can be either used for a down payment on a home, paid for a wedding, paid for maybe for other colleges or whatever. It doesn't have to be used for college. That money can be used for whatever your child deems necessary. Because say, for instance, a child says, you know what? I don't want to go to college. I want to go to a trade school and be a mechanic. Well, some of these institutions, well, 509 college fund, it says for college. Well,
Right.
maybe I don't want to go to college. Maybe I just want to go to become a trade and learn to be a plumbing. And then
Right.
they start frowning on those things. Those funding institutions are misleading you. But if you do the IUL, that money's already been established, and you can use that money for whatever. And guess what? At age 40, what happens that your son or your loved one has between 750 to $800,000. A 529 college fund is only used for college, an IUL, Index Universal Life Fund, can be used for anything. And you can start that as early as a child. So I think that's almost 30 minutes. I know there's probably some questions that need to be asked.
Yeah.
I want to say that I always recommend do a personal finance debt management, personal finance review, manage your own personal finance. Two, to understand the difference between getting a will and a trust, especially get a trust for your loved one, what you can do it. Make sure you find one that's maybe I recommend being a nonprofit lawyer that's actually certified in the state, and every state has identified lawyers that with special needs trusts. They won't tell you who they recommend, but they will at least tell you who's accredited by the state that can assist you. And the third thing is look at different funny techniques that won't instead of just thinking about Social Security or for your loved ones to get Medicare or Medicaid in certain situations, there's other institutions where they can earn some extra income, which is the ABLE count and the IUL. But I will say, I mean, when I've worked with families, would it be nice if your child had 3 to 4 sources of income and they're maybe in their 30s or 40s? And they said,
Right.
well, Social Security. No, there's not Social Security. Well, I have a financial advisor. Okay, great. I'm not telling he or she's wrong, but if they don't look at these other means, here's things you may want to consider. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but here's things you may want to consider. I said, would it be nice if your child can enjoy their own time, freedom in their own home, maybe do what they want to do, and be able to receive maybe some type of Social Security, maybe funds from the IUL, funds from their ABLE account. Maybe if you have some rental properties or LLCs are in that trust, now you got 2 or 3 other sources of income because every state allows you because all your estate is in that trust. So that is basic information that I have done for my son,
Right.
but is that information is getting out there. That is the only concerns that in our world. I mean, everybody says they know everything, but nobody knows
Not
everything.
really.
But if we can share the knowledge with everybody else, I'm saying that's information I think can be beneficial to people who are looking for other sources of information and things to consider for their loved ones. So,
That was awesome, actually. That helped me a lot. I don't have kids yet, but I'm planning on it. And just knowing that the trust is the biggest thing that I took on that. That's a whole safety cushion for them. So I love that portion actually. Yeah.
um, and make sure when you're doing the trust is make sure you do your research.
Yeah.
You can do a basic trust. Like I said, every state's different. I'm just going to speak on behalf of Texas.
Right, right, right.
I could do this. You can do this a basic trust, like a special needs trust, and say for instance, you only have your house, and you can do a basic needs trust, probably about $600. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to scare nobody, but $600 for a trust, that's a revocable trust that you make changes, is not that bad. But every family situation is different.
Hmm.
But but if you're some large that says it's going for me to do the trust for you, and I'm going to charge you between $1,200 to $2,000, are they? Well, let's be honest. Are they looking for your and your family interests, or are they
Or
looking
their
for their own
pocket.
interest?
Right.
So a basic trust, do your research.
I
It
don't
is about $600 for a basic special needs trust. It's about 600 bucks.
Nice. I don't want to take too much time. I know we're counting down, but Miss Danae or Miss Lindsay, any thoughts on that?
Where have you been the last 12 years, Gary? No, seriously, this is a lot of good information, and I share a lot of things in common with your story and your testimony. My daughter is on the low end of the spectrum, and I will have to be thinking and am thinking of these things as a young mom and things like that. So, no, I was just soaking in all of the information, and I'm sure I'll have questions for you. Hopefully, you don't mind me sending you a message after this just to pick your brain a little more. But
Okay.
And then Miss
That's
Lindsay
what we're
on
here, and
that?
I'm thinking if uh, I will, and then yes, I do a lot of stuff on the side because I do get when I help Teaching and helping families is free. Giving plans is free. But if I did a plan for somebody, I'll give you choices and I'll say, here's 15 choices. Yeah, please let's do this. Okay, I mean, it don't cost you anything, but some other institutions may give me a referral fee, a commission fee. But yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
But just sitting with you or talking to you, it's still free.
Well, I appreciate everything you're doing because we definitely, again, there's a disconnect on the information here and what families that are
And
living it every day don't know
27 years in the
anything about.
military. My son was born in Belgium when I was working for NATO and going to different military bases. I go on the military bases, say, hey, my son has autism. Why can't you help me? Well, the military basis says, well, we have an exceptional family member program. Okay, I got that. That's for years. I want to know is what services are out there. Well, here's 200 companies you can go as resources to go talk to them. Okay, can you tell me things I need to consider? Well, that's not our job. And I hate to say it, unless you're not looking, and unless you don't know about it, I don't think there's a whole lot of institutions or sources out there unless you're Googling. And everybody's either Googling, and there's a lot of good organizations out there, but it's a hit and miss.
Well, y'all, it's about to finish up. I am
It's
definitely
Lindsay.
looking for more information on this, and I want to get more information from Mr. Gary next week. Um, Lindsay, any last minute thoughts before it ends on us?
Nope, this was a fantastic and very informational session, so I'm looking forward to continuing this. Thank you.
Absolutely. I definitely learned a lot. Guys, see you guys next week. I'm excited for this. I'm excited for the direction we're going in.